back to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. Thank you guys for subscribing to my channel. Okay guys, so in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to cut different styles of back neckline, so you can see trendy ones. So that's what we're going to learn how to do today. It is a simple process. We're going to draft them. So I have about 4 or 5 patterns. Okay, we're going to do 5 different ones. Okay, so if you find this video helpful, please hit on the like button, and if you have not subscribed, please, I would appreciate for you to do that. Subscribe to my channel. So now guys, so let's get started. And then if you want to register for my class, you can just see my number, send me a message on WhatsApp. Okay, so let's do the first one. So the truth of the matter is that these necklines, I really don't know their names, so we're just going to give them any name. So this one is like a back Queen Anne. So that's what we're going to name it. It's like a Queen Anne, you making it through the back. So basically, when you're cutting your neckline, you need your front neckline and your back neckline to align. So normally, so the measurement I'm using for my front neckline is 3 inches. So the same thing I will use for my back neckline. Okay, so I'm going to mark it here like this. So that's my 3 inches, and then I'm going to come down by 1 inch. So that 1 inch. So if you notice, I am not cutting out the zip allowance. I've not cut it out because I'm not going to cut out for this pattern. I'm not cut out the zip allowance because I need it at the top part. It's going to lap on that part. So after marking your 3 inches, so the next thing, you are going to determine how wide you want the back to be. So for this is my bust line, and then this is my under bust. So if you want the neckline to come up a little bit, you can use your chest line. So your chest line are usually 8 inches. So if you want it, excuse me, if you still want it to be higher than your chest line, depends on how high you want the neckline to be, you can go up as much as you can. So for this neckline, because I'm going to add a button on this point, so I need to have that point. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use that part, and then I'm just going to eyeball what I have here. So for the down part, I'm going to check what I have. So I have about 6 inches, which is okay. So from that 6 inches, I'm just going to take my, and then I'm going to take it to that point, to my chest line point. Depends on how deep you want it to be. So now let's check, let's cut out and see what we have. Okay, so the first thing, I'm going to cut this out. Okay, after cutting that out, and then I'm going to cut this like this, and then I'll cut this like this. So I still have my zip allowance on my pattern, you understand? So I can now open my zip allowance, because if you notice, this one has a zipper, but if you want to add loops, you just take out the excess and then you loop it. So you can see this part now is still touching. So this is what will help it. So by the time I open it like this, you can see, you see how it is. So now I'll be able to add a button here, and then you see that the neckline, it looks perfect like what is on the picture, right? So you'll be able to add your button. But if I had cut it out, it's not going to lap. So I need that, and then my zip allowance will still lap properly. Okay guys, so this is the first one. This is a back Queen Anne. So the next one we're going to do is almost something similar also, like this back Queen Anne also, but this one is like a kind of round. Okay, so the next thing for this one also, we're going to still use our 3 inches. So for instance, if your zip allowance is there, because this pattern I actually did not add zip allowance to it. Okay, so that's it. So the next thing, I'm just going to mark my same 3 inches, because that's what I'm using for the wideness of my front neckline. I'll add 3 inches like this, and then I'm going to come down by 1 inch. That's the length of my neckline. That's the depth rather. And then I'm going to mark it like this. So just pay close attention, just see what I'm doing. So I've marked the round, and then from this part, because this one is a round, if you notice, it has like a lap on top of that part. So from that part, I'm going to mark from that point. I'm going to come down a little bit. So for this, I'm going to, I can come down by 1 inch. 1 inch is ideal. Okay. So that 1 inch from that point, depends on how wide I want it to be on this part. I can just come in like this by 1.5 here. So that 1.5, so literally this is what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to draw like a box. Depends on how much, because this part is the part where the button is going to be. So that's just what I'm trying to do here. So I created a box. So I hope just understand. I used 1.5 for this, and then 1 inch. And then from this point, I'm going to create an arc. So it depends on how big I want my arc to be. So the same thing, I'm going to come up to my chest line for the back neckline. That's the length, the depth rather. I'll still mark that. I'm still using 8 inches. And then the next thing I'm going to do depends on how wide I want it to be. So for this, I'm going to go with about 4 inches wideness. So that 4 inches. So from this point, that box, I'm just going to use dotted lines like this. And then once I get the dotted lines, I'll get the dotted lines to this point. And then from this point, now I'm going to come down. So now I'm taking out my zip allowance now. So I'm just cutting out that extra. You know, there was no zip allowance, so you need to still cut out extra if you are adding loops to your dress. So on this down part, I'm using 1 inch, and then on the bust line, I'm using 2 inches. So from that point, I'm just trying to navigate it like this. So at the end of the day, this is what I have. I'll just use my pattern curve to try and create a beautiful curve for this. So I just need you to notice what I'm doing. And then this curve comes back to that point like this. So you can see at the end of the day, you see how the shape looks like. So now I'm going to cut now. So I'll cut that out, and then I'll cut my original neckline from the top. I'll cut this out, and then I'm going to go ahead and then I'll cut this open like this. And then I'm going to open this up now. So at the end of the day, you can see how it looks like. So you can see the shape, okay? So you see how it is looking. You see that it looks exactly like what we have on that picture. So this is how. So now because of that extra, now this pulls the neckline back together. So it depends on how you want, if you want to use buttons, however you want it. So you can see the shape of the back neckline. Okay guys, so we're going to cut the fourth one now. Okay, so for the first one, it's almost similar to the second one, but it's just that this one is a little bit smaller. Okay, so we're still going to use our 3 inches width for the top part of our neckline, and then we'll use 1 inch depth. So if you notice, because they are actually high necklines, and then I'm going to mark it like this. And then I'm going to come up by 1 inch to my chest line. So my chest line now having 8 inches, just like we did in the previous one. So that is where I want the neckline to reach. So that is why I'm doing that. If you want it to go deeper, you can actually go down more. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to create that box again. But this one, this time, the box is going to be a little bit smaller. So for this, I'm just going to use half of an inch. That is half of an inch down here. And then I'll use the same 1.5 inch for this part. That's half of an inch, half 1.5. So I hope you get it. So from this point, I'm going to make a circle. So the circle, so I'm using the same 4 inches. So what I'm going to do now, that circle is going to run from this point. So for this kind of necklines, just make sure you use what do you call it, your pattern papers. Try them out before you transfer to your fabric. Okay, so I'm going to curve this. So I'm trying to get a beautiful curve. So you can see. So the next thing now, we're going to cut this out. Let's see how it looks like. So here is how we're going to cut. We cut like this. Okay, before then, let's cut out the actual neckline. Okay, and then after cutting there, we're going to navigate this, and then we're going to cut like this. So after cutting, we're going to open this up now. So that part is where your button is going to stay. So at the end of the day, you see how it looks like. So you can see how it looks like. So this stays on top, so you can see. So now you open this part. If you're adding a zip, you open this part. If you are not adding a zip, if you want to add loops, you open up this part and then add your loops. So it depends on what you want. But you can see how the neckline looks like. You see that we got it. So this is for the third one. Okay. So now we're going to cut the fourth one. So the fourth one is almost like similar to this one. All of them are almost so similar. The truth is, I don't know the name. So if you know the name, you can just drop it on the comment section for me. Okay, so this one is the one that I love most out of all of them. So I'm going to be trying it out sometime for myself. So this one is a square, it's not round, okay? So the next thing we're going to do now, so for the square part, we're still going to use the same measurement we use for our front neckline. Note, it must be the same. So which is 3 inches wideness. And then for the depth of coming down, I'm still using my 1 inch depth. And then I'm going to create out a square neckline for this. So you can see, so that is for the square neckline. So the next thing I'm going to do now, from this point, now I'm going to come down, depends on how wide I want that part to be, that I'm going to put my buttons. So for this, I'm still going to use, for this, I'm going to come with about 1.5 or 1.1 and quarter of an inch instead of 1. I don't want to use 1 inch. I want this to be a little bit longer. Okay, so I've marked it, and then the next measurement, how wide do I want this neckline to be? If you notice on the picture, is not very wide. So for this, I'm just going to go with 2.5 inches. So I've marked that 2.5 inches here, and then the next thing, I'll just connect it with a straight line like this. And then after connecting with a straight line, I'm running out of marker. I'm going to create my curve. So in creating my curve, I'm going to come to this part. You know, I'm using 2.5 inches. I'm going to mark the 2.5 inches here, and then I'm going to come. So for this, I really don't need, I'm going to cut it open. So for this, I'll come to my bust point line. I'll come in by 1, and that's, I'm trying to read this part of my tape. Okay. So I'll come in with less than 1 inch. I'll come in less than 1 inch, and then I'll come to my waistline. I'll come in by half of an inch, and then as I come down to my my under bust line, I'm coming by half of an inch, and then on the waistline, I'll come in by quarter of an inch. Okay, so from this point, I'm just going to use dotted lines to try to highlight what I want before I cut. Okay, so I think what I have here, it looks good. So I'm going to use my pattern curve now. So I'm trying to get the best part of my pattern curve for this. So at the end of the day, you can see how it is looking. So I'm going to cut this out right now. So the first thing, we'll cut out the square part of the neckline. And then I'm going to cut open the back. And then I'm going to cut open this part. And then I will open this, and then I'm going to place it. Let's see. So at the end of the day, you can see how this looks like. So this is where my buttons are going to stay, and then this is going to stay like this. So you can see that it came out fine. So in case you don't want this part to be as wide as this, you can alter the measurements. Okay, so you see it looks perfect. Okay, so the last one, so this one is like a big C neckline. So this one is like easiest. So the next thing for this one runs to the down part of my dress, so to my waistline or under bust line. So this is the under bust line. I'm going to mark that under bust line like that. And then the next thing, we'll still use our 3 inches for the wideness of our neckline, and then we'll curve it out with our 1 inch depth. Okay, so after covering that out like this, and then the next thing I'm going to do from this part now, you remember this one is similar to like the first one we did, because we need it to lap on that part. So what we're going to do, we're going to draw a curve from here, from this point like this. So the next thing now that I'm going to do, how wide do I want the back to be? So for this is about 3.5 inches. That's for the center part. And then that 3.5. So when I get to the waist part, I reduce it to about 2 inches. So this I'm just use my curve to create like a circle. Okay. So the next thing, I'm going to cut this out now for us to see. So first of all, we'll cut open the round part of our neckline like this. And then from this part now, we're going to do this so you can see what I'm doing. So this part, I'm going to have a little, so this I'll trim this off, and then I'm going to take this like this. So at the end of the day, it's going to stay like this. So if you notice, this one actually had it had loops, like you used something to extend the neckline, and then it sits like this. So guys, thank you so much. I've now come to the end of this tutorial. I hope these necklines are useful to someone. So thank you. If you find this video helpful, please hit on the like button, and if you have not subscribed, subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you in my next video.